Well, hello, DCO Nation, and welcome back to another DCO Live. Again, we got another great bunch of guys on here. Man, I don't even know where to start yelling out names, but I appreciate you guys jumping on here and taking a little bit of time out and join and talk a little bit of fishing. But as you can see, we got our favorite captains on here, Captain Tanya and Captain Jason. Appreciate you guys jumping on here tonight. So dog days of summer, what have you guys been up to? Captain Tanya, let's start with you. Last time we talked, I think it was June, so it's been a couple of months.
Yeah, time has gone by. I feel like I haven't even been home much. Blessed, got to go down to ICAST in Orlando for the whole week and got to check off one for the bucket list. Got to boat as my first tarpon ever, a 150 plus pound tarpon. It was unbelievable. I mean, I still pinch myself to go, is this real? Did it happen? Am I dreaming? But it's just one of those moments in life that you go, I'm not going to ever forget this. And if I don't ever catch another one again, it's cool. And I don't even know that I'm going to be able to top this one. But, I caught a blue marlin years ago, which was unbelievable. But this was like a chart topper for me, on the cake. Can't beat it.
Yeah, that is absolutely phenomenal. Guys, I just put up a picture of this thing, and what a monster. I mean, go over to Captain Tanya's Instagram account, which is Real Chica, and look at the video and the pictures. It is just absolutely insane. How long did it take you to land this thing?
It was an hour and 5 to get that joker to the boat.
Wow.
Now, I got the leader to the boat probably a dozen times before that. And so, it's like, you've caught this fish essentially. And I said, no, I've got to grab it by the lips and hang on to it,
That is awesome.
Oh, insane. Now, I know you guys can't take it out of the water. Now, back in the day, they used to take like a scale. You can't do that anymore, can you?
I don't know that you can't. We talked about it and I think in the chaos didn't, because everybody asked me to get one. I do have the hook and the leader, so I'm like, so. And we also have, like, my great friend that was on the boat with me. He videoed the entire time with her iPhone, and then had my phone snapping like stills for that whole time, like never stopped. And so when you get to have that happen at a moment like that in your life, so which is so I feel like I couldn't have captured, or somebody else couldn't have captured it any better, and I can watch it anytime I want to now, which is pretty fun.
Yeah,
that is incredible. I mean, that's what did you guys catch it on?
It was about probably a 12-inch live mullet, just kind of free lining it, and Chris and I were chatting kind of a little bit beforehand. We got all these tarpon rolling around us, and so we knew they were there. And I say to the captain, I'm like, hey, how big are these fish typically, that you're catching out here? And it's like they're 40 to 60 pounds. We got 100-pounder every now and then, and so I'm like, perfect. I'll take a 40-pound tarpon as my first one. And so I'm watching these tarpon roll, and then I see this bird kind of come in and stop, and I was like, oh crap, something is, I had this feeling something was going to happen. And I mean, that tarpon rolled on top of the bait, so you got to see the eat, and then it was just took off, and the line's peeling off, and I'm thinking, dear God. And, I'm like, if I just get to see it jump, I'm going to be happy. Like it was like I hooked a tarpon and it jumped. Great. But then it was on, and it was, when that thing came out the water, all of us were like, oh my God, like you realized how big it was. And I mean, I still can't believe it never came off the hook. And when we got it to the boat, I mean, the hook was in the best place it possibly could be. And it's only a 6-aught hook. And we're fishing with 60 pound. I mean, it was unreal.
That's crazy.
That's absolutely awesome. Absolutely awesome. Yeah, guys, go over and check out that video. The acrobatics of this fish coming out of the water. I'm surprised you never lost it, but good on you.
Yeah, it was, I feel, like I said, I feel blessed. And, the moment's just one of those that, you just, I was in the right place at the right time, and, on the right side of the boat.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
All
what
right,
it's all
Captain
about.
Jason, how are you going to top this? What have you been doing the last couple of months?
I'll never top that. That is. We finally met in person at ICAST, and that was the first thing we talked about. And watching that video, like I literally watched it once, and then wanted to bring Chris Regan over to watch it, but I really just wanted to see the video again. So it that's, I mean, like you said it the best. I mean, that's something that you will cherish the rest of your life, and you may never top it. You may, who knows? You know, these
Nope.
you hear people talk about these crazy fish, but wow, I mean, that's, in my opinion, you know, unless you know you're a diehard blue marlin fisherman, I mean, that is the ultimate fish. I mean, I don't know what tops that.
My redfish addiction might be in trouble. The tarpon could be moving up.
I've had some very, very good friends that were diehard red fishing, and now they chase those tarpon everywhere. And there's something about that fish that seems to hook people, and it never lets go. You know?
Yeah. I've never even caught a juvenile. Jason, have you ever caught a juvenile, little small one?
I've only caught small ones. As kids, we fished off the pier, and we used to king mackerel fish off the piers. And a buddy of mine who had a bad shoulder caught one, and I helped him reel it in, but I still don't consider that. But we went to Florida to Duck Key on a trip, and we did a tarpon trip, and it got blown out. So the guide was an awesome guide, but he ended up taking us in the backwater where we caught these little, like, 7-8 pounders, which, they're pretty much, that's the only ones that I've ever actually like physically casted and hooked. So I've caught them, but I don't think that's a real, that's like an amateur getting ready for the PGA Tour or something. I've never had a real one. So.
All right. Well, I want to be an amateur.
Tanya's would have ate mine. Like, I'm like so happy. I'm like, look at my fish, and it looks like a glorified ladyfish. Like hers looks like it just ate the ship that she was in.
Yeah. So I do want to ask you about your new ride. So I'm going to pop up the picture and kind of tell us what this is and why you wanted to get this beautiful new vessel here. And I love the wrap. The wrap is sick.
Thank you. Yeah. We got a lot of boats, and we had some newer hires and stuff. And it was time. The boat that I was driving, it was getting up there in hours. So luckily, it was my turn to draw a card for a newer boat. So we started reaching out to different manufacturers and talking to a couple people, and we got hooked up with the good people at Tailwalker Marine there in Georgetown. And it all started as a joke. And I jokingly said, one of these days I'm going to have one of these cool little tower boats. And it started as a joke. And, the guys there were like, hey, well, their job is to sell a boat. My job is to, window shop and say, hey, one of these days I'll have one. But so we started just talking and putting some stuff together, and it just kind of fell into place. And, Pathfinder jumped on board with us and offered us a discount to kind of, sweeten the deal. And, there she is. I never thought in a million years that I would have anything like this. So it's been really, really nice. I've had it about a month. Getting familiar with a new boat is definitely a challenge. I'll be the first one to tell you, I'm an old dog. I like what I like. And this boat being newer, has a lot of fancy technology and stuff that I've had to go to YouTube University just to learn how to use. So there's a lot of cool features, but I absolutely love the boat. It's amazing. What amazes me about the boat, even today, I ran a charter today after the thunderstorm, and we kind of got word of, a group of fish that were shallow. And it amazes me that this boat will get shallow. Obviously it's not, like a flats boat or a kayak, but I was amazed today that the area I wanted to go in, I knew I was kind of there early, knew I was pushing it. And of course it's new, so I don't want to scratch it or hurt it. But luckily it did pretty well shallow, and, getting up in the tower and seeing some fish, there's definitely some cool stuff.
Yeah. So how high off the water are you when you're in the tower?
Well, I can tell you, I'm a short fellow myself, so being tall is not my norm. But I want to say I don't know the pure height. I know on the trailer it's like 11 or 12 feet high.
Okay.
So you figure there's probably 2 feet under the trailer. So it's probably a good 10 feet in the air. But
Yeah.
the thing about it, I've never had a tower before, and I'd primarily inshore fish. Everybody's like, "Oh, let's chase cobia, let's do this." And I was like, okay, But I'll be fishing in an area, and you'll appreciate this. I'm fishing in an area the other day, and I'm hearing the explosions. Now I know what that is, but I can't see it.
Mm-hmm.
So I end up going up in the tower and looking, and the creek behind me, there is literally 2 redfish that are literally just blowing shrimp up left and right. So I'm like, oh, there they are. Here I am thinking I'm in a kayak or I'm doing something stealthy. So I fire up the motor, go around the corner, and of course they're gone. And I'm like, where'd they go? And I thought about it, and I'm like, all that racket I just made, they were gone before I got there. But it was neat to be able to see it for a minute on how some other people do it. I was almost felt like I was flying a drone or something.
Yeah. That's absolutely awesome. Well, love it, man. I haven't seen it out on the water yet, but I'm sure we'll run into each other at some point. But I want to see that thing skimming across the top. That is absolutely cool. Absolutely cool. All right, so let's go ahead and let's jump into it. And guys, remember, if you have any questions, let's go ahead and throw them out there. But dog days of summer, Captain Tanya down there in Charleston, what kind of water temperatures are you seeing right now?
Woo!
And what are these fish starting to do? I mean, I know what I'm starting to see, but you're even further south than what we are.
It's been wicked at 89. Personally, I've been seeing 89 to almost 90. I've had my buddies send me pics of 93.7, I think is the highest. But that, we get those water temps in the 90s like that. It's making that, dissolved oxygen content is just, it's almost non-existent. So these fish they're not in these areas that they have been in the past. I mean, I'm looking back at my last, 2 or 3 Julys, and, we've had hot Julys, but it has not been like it's been now. And so those fish that you can go in these back creeks that you've got some deep holes, they're not there. Yeah. They're just not in those spots as frequently. You're just not finding them in those areas that it was, it's taking you a lot more work. You're having to really move around, try to find that little bit of a cooler change. And it can just be like a half a degree, but if it definitely, you're searching more water is what I'm finding. And it is imperative. I tried to do, I'm a big fan of morning trips, just I'm an old lady, so I like to do things early. But, my clients are meeting me, between 5:30 and 6 at the latest. Let's get out there, because that bite window, especially if you can play the tide right, from 6, for me, I've been finding like 6 to 9 is like prime time. You get after 9, that water's just getting so hot. You really are going to have to start moving and finding deeper, cooler water.
Yeah. Captain Jason, are you seeing the same thing?
Yeah, she's spot on. I mean, that couldn't be a better analogy. Same thing with us. We the tale of 2 tides. We have a small inlet. So high tide, we're seeing 87-degree water. Low tide, we're seeing 90. I've talked to Chris Regan. He's been doing a bunch of flats trips. And he's been leaving earlier than we normally leave. Our standard trips leave at 7. He's been leaving at 6, and he said the same thing. He said that early morning bite is crucial. I agree 100% with Tanya. The dissolved oxygen, we're having a major problem right now in the inlet. I'm old enough that I've seen it before. I'm kind of fearful we're going to get hypoxia, where the oxygen just basically leaves the water and all the fish rush to the ocean. What we're seeing in the inlet, spot on, like she was talking about. My go-to holes, my holes that I could bet my life on, the fish are gone. And if there is fish there, they're there for 10 minutes and then they're gone. So even our charter fleet, what we've seen is just everybody is fishing the jetties. Everybody is ganged up on the rocks. I found some spots this week in particular that, were 10 to 12 feet behind the breakers. And we were catching more fish there than we were in the creeks, because a little bit cooler water with the ocean, ocean's 86, creek's 90. And then, that sloshing of the waves creating oxygen it's made a difference. But I have not seen, I've been doing this a long time. I have never seen a July this hot. I've never seen all the fish just leave at one time. And there are windows, there are brief windows in the morning where you'll catch a couple fish, but it's like, if you want anything, you've got to find deeper holes, cooler water, watching that temp gauge. I fished, Merle's Inlet Small, 6 miles long, but it was amazing the other day because you would go on the north side and it was 86 degrees. You go on the south side, it was 90. So those south areas that I love so much, those flats and, all those little feeder creeks that come off the flats had nothing. And then we were catching fish in the main channels up north, which I believe, some of those northern spots have the sand versus the pluff mud, and that pluff mud was just getting too hot. We couldn't buy a bite, but you find those little cooler pockets, deeper water, sandy bottom. It seemed to like, not a great bite, but that was your shot.
Yeah. Now, Captain Tanya, all of this rain that we've been getting here this last couple of days, I know we've been getting a ton of rain. Really, gosh, I think it started like Monday. What is this rain going to do? Is it going to benefit it? Is it really not going to do much for them? Or,
I mean, you hope that it's going to cool that water down a little bit, I think is the big thing. I mean, we know this time of year the water's going to be dirty, so I mean that doesn't typically bother me. I know that if I'm fishing live bait, I'm going to cut the tails off the finger mullet that I'm using, or the mullet, or if I'm hopefully still finding some menhaden around, I like to put a little help by putting a little extra scent in the water. We're fishing artificials. I'm a huge fan of, I talked about this, I think one of our last ones, about, using chartreuse. So I think that color always does well, and you just need some flash in there. But again, scent and probably vibration are going to be your two, I think, helpers. But you also remember, with these water temps this high, you may not be reeling those artificials maybe as fast as you normally would. You really need to think about probably slowing them down, because these fish are not, even though prior to these 90-degree upper 80s were very aggressive because of the sheer number of bait, they can't do that now. So you need to probably slow those presentations down a bit, make it easier for those fish to, get that live bait on the bottom or, under the float, but just slow things down, just increase the opportunities for them by not making them work so hard.
Yeah. Matter of fact, I was out last weekend. I actually ran into Captain Chris, kind of went by him. He was anchored up, and I was slow rolling a paddle tail on the bottom, wasn't really getting anything. So I went to the Prawn Star and just kind of let that just kind of drift and sit on the bottom and not really hardly move it. And I was picking up flounder. So that was telling me right then that low and slow is what's going to get it. And I don't know if they just didn't want to chase something down. Everybody says, when they get hot, they really don't want to burn the calories to go chase down their meals. So, I think Merle's Inlet, I was seeing that 86, 87 degrees. And, Jason, like you were saying, come 10 o'clock, I never got a sniff with anything. It was just shut down.
Yeah, we're we are very busy this time of year. We're running 2 trips a day. And I could tell you our afternoon trips is a struggle. I mean, there are fish to be caught, but it is very, very challenging. I mean, you're taking, guides that are used to producing top quality fish, and, all of a sudden, whatever they were producing is cut in half or a third. But there are some incidents that we're seeing. I even talked to some of my guys earlier, just like we were talking about slow down. It's almost like when that water gets hot, it's almost like they resort back to the wintertime.
Yep.
In the wintertime, you're downsizing your baits, you're slowing down, and you're basically catering to fish that are not going to move. Captain Quentin that works with us, he told me today he was live bait fishing, and said he was dead sticking, and that was the only way he was getting flounder. That when he was actually dragging them on the bottom, traditionally dragging them on the bottom, how everybody flounder fishes, couldn't get a bite, but when he dead sticked in an area he knew they were there, he started picking them up. And that to me was like, makes no sense, but it worked. So, I mean, there's a prime example today, you know.
Yeah. We do have a question that popped in. I'm going to throw it up here on the screen. Mike said, is fishing at night during these hot summer days a good option?
I'll let you answer that.
I'll be honest, I don't do a lot of night fishing, but I'm sure, you know, that it is going to cool down to a degree. But, you know, right now, I mean, God, at 4 or 5 o'clock in the afternoon, we're just hitting the highs where our heat index has been 115 to 20. So I don't know how much cooler it is. Jason, you might be able to answer it better. I just don't have enough experience fishing at night, but other than it would make sense that it would probably be better. I mean, middle of the day is, I mean, for me I'm like, don't do it. I think if you can avoid it, you know, go morning, go night, but definitely if you don't have to go during the middle of the day, don't do it.
Yeah. The only experience I could pull from a long time ago, probably 10, 12, 13 years ago, we did do a little tiny experiment with running night charters. And what we found with that, we were trying to catch sharks. So we would basically just go to the jetties and fish, you know, cut bait on the bottom. And we did have some success catching the bigger redfish at night around the jetties. That's the only really experience I have of night fishing. But I will say that the definition of night being pitch dark, because you could go out there, let's say after sunset, between sunset and last light, and that's probably going to be a prime time to throw a topwater bait or get some more aggression. So I would, if I was going to go night fishing, I would probably go 45 minutes before dark and get that dusk leading into dark, and then continue into the dark, and not necessarily, you know, start my trip at 10 o'clock or something.
Agreed.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, the last time I was out, that was a week ago now. We were right around the new moon or a couple of days after the new moon, and the topwater bite with trout was really well. So topwater this time of the year, still a good option?
For us, it is. I can vouch for that. I know some of our guys, we've been very, very busy with charters. You know, July is our busiest month of the year. Some of the guys that's had last minute cancellations and had pop-up free time, they've been throwing topwater at first light. And some of the guys have been throwing it, you know, right at dusk. And we've actually been seeing a good amount of bigger trout being caught.
Yeah, I was about to say the trout bite on the topwater is like our trout bite right now is kind of some days been better than the redfish bite.
Yeah. Yeah, not so much reds for us. I can't recall any of the guys talking about catching reds on topwater.
Yeah, I'm not even saying topwater. I just meant in general, the trout bite has been just a better bite.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm seeing the same thing. Matter of fact, I had on Sunday morning, I caught a handful on topwater, and I think I missed just as many, you know, them just blowing it up. I had a couple, they just knocked it out of the water. You know, my mirror flew in the air, and, you know, so they're aggressive at it. So they definitely, you know, they're going at it. So, you know, topwater in the morning. Now, is that only around the new moon cycle, or will that continue throughout the rest of the summer? Or does it not really matter?
I don't think it matters as far as the topwater bite goes. You know, referring to David Flad with, you know, Release Over 20 and Eye Strike Company, if you look at the data, you know, there's more larger trout caught around the full moon and new moon than any other time of the year. So if you look at it from then, you know, if I was going out topwater fishing, I would go no matter what. If you can get it to coincide with a full moon or a new moon, I just think that adds an extra opportunity for you to possibly catch a bigger one, you know, because the spawners are in there. So it's just kind of throwing extra spice in there for you.
Yeah. Mark just threw up a question here. It says, what topwaters are you guys using?
I love the Rapala Skitterwalk V is one of my favorites. I like to throw. It's got like a orange belly and top of, it's kind of an orange red belly, and the top's kind of a darker, almost looks like a finger mullet color, if you will. But that one, I like it because I can give it to a client that doesn't necessarily know how to walk the dog, but because of that nice V and the rattle in it, they can almost reel that thing straight, and just the way it flows to the water, you'll get somebody that's never caught a topwater just catching it on basically reeling, and if they're not able to make it walk like you want it to. So
right.
Yeah, that's perfect. Yeah. For me, same thing. It's either Skitterwalk, or like a Spook Junior. I like throwing the bone color is kind of like our bread and butter. And there's I can't remember who makes this, called Badonkas. They make a good one. It's a bigger profile one. We've had good luck with those as well. So
yeah. I've been throwing the Mirror Top Pup about the last month, and I've been having some real good success with that. Kind of in that mullet color, dark on the top, almost black on the top, white on the bottom. I've been having some pretty good success with that. So that's what I've been throwing. So let me ask you this, I'm sorry, Jason, go.
Oh, you're good. No, I was just going to say, I will tell you some of the experimenting we did with topwater last year. Me and Chris Regan, we found under super, super low light conditions, like that moment that you almost can't see because it's still dark, those darker baits have been better. And then when the light does come up, the lighter ones are better.
Yeah. So you're almost tracking on the question that I was going to ask you, and I'll go to Captain Tanya. Does the color of your topwater bait matter?
Well, the top part of the bait is really to get the angler, because we all like pretty colors. So it's the bottom of that bait, that color, that really matters. That's what's getting the strike or the bite. It's going to be light or dark on the bottom, right? There's really two options. But if you look at the tops, they're all different colors. And that's just we like to buy things, and, manufacturers like to make pretty things to make us buy things. So
yeah, I know. Yeah. And I'm the one that's guilty of it. I'm like, ooh,
so am I.
Colors. Yeah. Look at this.
I open my tackle box up and I'm like, look at what I have. And the funniest thing is my buddies who are fishing guides and fishing people, look at this. And all the ones that I show off are the ones that I don't use. I use like 2.
Yeah.
Look at what I got. I found the latest and greatest. And you're like, it's just you out there on the water. You're like, oh, there's Old Faithful at, Luke Knot, let's go.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I'm glad you just said that about the loop knot. The one thing that I did experiment with was I tied on 2 topwaters on 2 separate rods and reels, and one with a loop knot and one with just a cinch knot, just to see how the walk the dog was affected. And it's not even close. If it didn't have a loop knot, I was not getting that nice walk back and forth.
Yeah.
So if you don't know how to tie that loop knot, guys, learn how to do it for your topwaters.
That and I'll give you another advice. Use heavy fluorocarbon leader for, I hate to call it tippet because it's not tippet, but use a short piece of heavy. I'm talking about 30, 40, 50. For one reason and one reason only, it will never tangle. That's all. So I'll run 15-pound fluorocarbon, probably 12, 15 inches. And then at the end, I'll put, just the tiniest little piece of like 30 with my loop knot. And that way, when I'm walking the dog, the line is so stiff that it will not catch the treble hooks. And you don't have to deal with, halfway back, your bait starts, going this way because you caught the treble hook and you got to reel it back on in and unhook it and cast it again.
Yeah, that's me. Yeah, absolutely. Pro tip, guys. Pro tip.
Yeah. That's a great tip.
Yeah, that's awesome. Well, guys, that's 30 minutes.
How's it
like we were talking about? It just flies by. So, Captain Tanya, let's give you one of the last words. How are you going to tackle August going into September?
I'm gonna pray hard for some cooler weather. I used to say the heat didn't bother me, but clearly it's affecting all of us. But I feel blessed that I can get out here and do it. You know, tickle pink that people still want to come fish with me, and we just we make the most of it and try to have a great time. And for me, no matter what, I love just being out there and enjoying the outdoors, meeting people, and we catch fish. It's definitely it's bonus time. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Captain Jason, what you got for us?
Dude, she couldn't have said it any better. That's the way you got to look at it. Fishing is always a challenge, but in our profession, getting to meet people, meeting these great families and hearing their stories, and everybody's got a cool story. August is hot. Like you guys talked about earlier, if you want to avoid the heat, get out there early. This is probably the only time of year where you could get out there and do a 2-hour trip and go home and not feel guilty for leaving early. So there's still opportunities. We're still catching fish. It's a little bit harder, but I will tell you this, if you can catch fish right now, it will benefit you down the road as far as developing your skills, because if you can catch them when it's tough, you'll be able to catch them a lot better when it's easier.
Yeah.
Well said.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's absolutely awesome. So guys, really appreciate you taking the time out, jumping on here, and trying to walk us through to get us on more fish here during the dog days. So again, thank you so much, guys. I really appreciate you jumping on and watching. We will be back here next week, same bat time, same bat channel. And remember, conservation starts with you. Release a fish for someone else to enjoy. And we will see everybody next week. Guys, don't go anywhere. I want to talk to you for 1 minute, and I will see everybody else next week. Thanks, guys.